What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're looking to move to Brooklyn or are just curious about what it's like to live in Brooklyn, then I basically made this video for you. I know a lot of people actually are moving to New York even during what's going on, which I think is great. A lot of you DM me asking about what it's like to live in New York and how to get here. A lot of you saw my How I Moved to New York video, so I wanted to make somewhat of a guide so you guys can know what it's like to live here. So I broke it down into a couple different sections. So I'm gonna talk about housing, I'm gonna talk about commuting, restaurant, style, and things to do. But I want to go ahead and start off with housing because that seems to be the main, most popular question you guys ask me. Also, I just discovered this new sparkling water brand called AHA. I never even liked sparkling water before this. I used to hate sparkling water. I thought it tasted disgusting, and now I'm like all about it. This quarantine has changed me. I got a new ring light, and you guys probably already know that if you watched my last video, but there's 3 different settings, and I'm trying this other setting because I'm in a different location. Hopefully this works. I'm still getting used to this whole YouTube thing. I'm gonna break this up into 3 different sections. The first one being how to find apartments. You find apartments basically the same way you would if you were in any other state, online. But that's not the only way you can find apartments here. Websites like Street Easy and Nooklin, those websites are specifically in New York, and there are others as well. There's also Trulia, Zillow, which is mainly for homes, but you can find apartments too, I think. Another thing you can do if you're just walking around and you see an apartment building that you really like and you want to see if there's any vacancies in it, you can just type that address into Google and it'll pop up either with a website directly for that building, or it'll pop up with the Street Easy or Nooklin listing. Another thing you can do is just walk in, or if someone's like about to walk in and you want to ask them a question, the only thing I would say is try not to make it creepy. For example, when I lived in Jamaica, Queens, this was a while back, I was moving out, and that's when me and Nick were gonna move in together. As we were packing up the U-Haul and stuff, some guy had stopped by with his girlfriend. They were walking by, like, you guys are moving out of this building? And we're like, yeah, and he just starts asking us questions about what it's like, if it's a nice apartment, why are we moving? We were mainly moving because we just wanted to be closer to the city and we wanted to be in Brooklyn. The apartment itself was so beautiful. It was so incredibly nice. It had a washer and dryer in unit, a balcony. It was just really nice and spacious. The kitchen was just like unheard of big. Like, I didn't even think kitchens like that existed in New York. If you're like walking by and you happen to see someone moving out, which is often, so you can easily find someone moving into an apartment, don't be afraid to ask. I want to show you guys Nooklin, so I'm going to put it up here. Nooklin is made specifically for Brooklyn, but you can find Manhattan apartments on here. Once you hit search, you can see if they have apartments, roommates, rooms, and I think jobs, which is crazy. And now they have commercial listings, which is different because they never really had that before. So let's say I want to just look at apartments. So you can narrow this down to exactly what you want. So let's say for the beds, you want at least one. You don't want a studio. For those who don't know, a studio is just basically one big room. The bed is in the room. There's no walls really that make a room. There's no door to the rooms. But I'm gonna just put one bed just for the sake of this. And then neighborhoods you can look as well. So see, they do have Queens, Manhattan, you can look at that, but I'm just gonna look at Brooklyn. You can just click on Brooklyn and look at all the neighborhoods, or you can just click that way and you can choose a place. I'm gonna show you guys that after I show you how to use Nooklin real quick, but I will show you which neighborhoods are the best to live in and which ones are the safest. So I'm just gonna put Brooklyn all together just for now. And you can also narrow down the price. So let's say you want the max price to be $2,500. And you can do that. And you can also do more filters. They have, you can see if there are pets allowed, if you want a balcony, bike storage, central heating and air. You can get a patio, public Wi-Fi, stuff like that. But I'm just gonna like do this for the sake of the video. So then you can see they have a whole bunch of different apartments available. They have 380 in this specific range. This one's 2,000, you can click on it, and then you can swipe through the photos and look at exactly what it looks like. So it's pretty cool. Like, you can see what it looks like first, and then obviously you would set an appointment up with the real estate agent so you can go look at it in person, which I highly recommend. Definitely don't rent an apartment without looking at it in person, because these pictures are doctored to look really nice. They have professional photographers coming in and taking these photos, and yeah, they're taking pictures of what you're looking at, but there's like wide angle lenses and it just looks nicer and bigger than what it is. So definitely go see it in person. But if you scroll down, you can see that it has the location. It's in Bed-Stuy, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It's on Fulton Street. It tells you a little bit about the place. It has the real estate agent to the right. And then you go down to amenities. It tells you what it has, a skyline view, all this stuff. The lease deals, what you'll need to move in, first month's insecurity, that's it. And then It tells you like the price history and how much it's changed, because rent definitely does go up. If you're living somewhere for like 2 or 3 years, you will probably have a rent increase within that year. Nothing too substantial, usually like $100 or something like that. It shows you a picture of the building. It talks about the neighborhood itself. Bed-Stuy is the birthplace of Biggie Smalls. And then if you look to the right here, you can see the map and you can zoom in and see how close it is to other places and stuff like that. And then other ones on the list. So they make it really, really easy to use. And if you were interested, all you would have to do is hit request a tour or just contact the person and click on their name and be able to contact them that way. So that's just basically how to use Nookland. Again, I use Street Easy as well, and sometimes I just Google it, and if we're just walking by, we'll just ask somebody. It really just depends on what's going on. You don't want to make it so specific. When you're looking at the amenities and stuff and it's telling you it has like a skyline view and like natural light or something like that, you know, this is another reason you definitely need to go see the apartment before you sign anything. They'll say stuff like that, and then the skyline view is like the worst thing ever. No shade at people that work in real estate, but I know sales and I know that type of sales, and they are trying to make a sale. They need you to rent this apartment, they get a commission. They're obviously going to hype a place up and make it sound better than what it may be, just so that you can get excited and actually sign the lease. Go in and make your own assessments and judgments. So that brings me into my next topic, which is about money, rent, and utilities. This question gets asked a lot. You guys are really interested in what it's like to live here, how expensive it is, and if like you can survive. First things first, you definitely can survive here. Something to keep in mind that because the cost of living is more expensive here, the wages are higher. So I think the minimum wage in New York is $15 an hour. When I was in North Carolina, it was $8 an hour. That just shows you the difference. Like, it's obviously way cheaper to live in North Carolina than it is New York. I would never be able to survive on minimum wage at $8 an hour living in New York. So when it comes to renting an apartment, you obviously have to put a little bit of money down. When I first moved to New York, it was first month's rent, security deposit, and last month's rent. So if your rent was $3,000 a month, you'd have to pay $9,000. And living in Brooklyn is a little bit different. I don't think we've ever had to pay first month's, last month's, and security. We did used to have broker fees. New York did just pass a law. You no longer have to pay a broker fee in New York. We've been living in this apartment for about 3 years, so we don't know. We haven't been looking at new apartments. From what I've been looking at, it looks like they are sticking to this. People are not charging you broker fees. When we moved in here, we only paid first month's and security deposit. So that's all we paid, and our rent here is $21.50. Just know that you are gonna have to put down more than what you would pay for rent the first time. You're absolutely gonna have a security deposit, and you may or may not have to do the last month's rent as well. Places that we look at don't do that, so just make sure you're looking at all your options before you just settle on one place. When you put that security deposit down, you do get it back at the end, unless you really mess up your apartment, like there's stuff all over the walls, you like destroy the place completely. For the most part, you will get the whole security deposit back, so you can use that at the next place you move into. More than likely, you're gonna move more than once in New York. I've moved multiple times since living here. Rent really just depends on the area that you're in. So I live in Bushwick, which is like right on the outskirts of Williamsburg. I think I'm living like on the line. I'm like right there on the border. I'm technically Bushwick, but they try to sell you these apartments as east to Williamsburg just because Williamsburg is so hot right now and everybody wants to live in Williamsburg. Places in this area are gonna be around 21 to 3,000. We live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how much rent is here. We used to live 6 blocks down the street from where we are now. The rent there was $3,000 a month, and they had raised it the second year, and that's why we moved out. They only raised it $50. It wasn't the amount that really made us mad. It was just the fact that what we were paying for was so unnecessary. We were just paying for all the bells and whistles. Like, they had a piano, they had a lounge, they had a gym, which was great. They just made it look really nice to the point where you're like, oh my God, this is the coolest place ever. But how often we were using the amenities didn't really make any sense for what we were paying, so that's why we moved here. Bigger areas like Dumbo and areas that are closer to Manhattan, then you're gonna be paying more. So that's a good general rule of thumb. The closer you are to Manhattan, the more expensive the apartment gets when you're in Brooklyn. You can always kind of find like a cheap walk-up anywhere you go. Like, you can find a cheap walk-up in like Upper East Side New York, but it's gonna be really, really cheap and gross, and you're gonna be paying like $2,000, $3,000 for a place that you might as well just live a little bit farther and have a nicer place. Another thing I want to talk about is utilities. Most utilities are not included. The only utility that's included in every apartment in New York is water. You do not pay for water in New York. I remember paying for water when I was in North Carolina. We had a separate water bill, but you do not have to do that here. The bills that we pay here and that most people pay is our Wi-Fi. We have Verizon Fios, and that's what we use for our Wi-Fi, we pay that monthly. Then you have to pay for the electric bill, which is usually through Con Edison. That is what most people in New York use. And then you will more than likely have to pay for gas. I think Con Ed does gas as well, but we use Nat Grid. So we have 3 bills for utilities. We have Wi-Fi, electric, and gas. Just know that those are more than likely going to be the bills that you have to pay. I would just take into account like the food that you're gonna have to eat, any groceries, any ordering, which I'm gonna talk about later. So just kind of take that into account. And if you guys haven't already, check out my How to Adult video, because I do talk about budgeting, and I think that's something we all need to be very clear about, which brings me into my next part about housing, which is places to live in Brooklyn. So I'm gonna go back to Nooklyn just because they have all of the places to live in Brooklyn in one spot. It's just easy for me to show you guys. I live in Bushwick, which is kind of close to Williamsburg. Like, we're right there on the edge of it, and this is a very good place to live. I will say I always feel safe for the most part. Yeah, there's crime, but there's crime everywhere. I think people kind of over exaggerate when it comes to New York. There's just more people here, but most of the crime in this area is because of beef between certain people, and that's bad regardless, but it's never just like you walking down the street and someone's like trying to shoot you, you know. It's just about being in the right place at the right time and not walking around by yourself at night or taking the train really late at night, like at 2 in the morning by yourself, especially if you've been drinking. But there are places that have more crime than other places that I definitely want you guys to steer clear from, so I'm gonna tell you now. So Bushwick, Williamsburg, beautiful places, highly recommend. It's where most people want to live right now when you move to Brooklyn. Bed-Stuy is also a really nice place. Greenpoint's really nice. It's kind of like near Williamsburg. Beautiful places, beautiful parks. Clinton Hill, Fort Greene, I'm not really that familiar with these places, but I think they're nice. They're just kind of farther out. Prospect Heights, same thing, it's just a little bit farther. Park Slope is farther, but it's absolutely beautiful. It has a lot of brownstones. It's really beautiful. It's more residential. In fact, I like to call it Stroller City because it's full of children. Anytime you walk around Park Slope, you just see a whole bunch of moms pushing strollers and a whole bunch of kids running around. So it's not bad, but if you're not looking to be in that environment, I would kind of steer clear of Park Slope. Other than that, it's beautiful, just a little bit farther out. Crown Heights, I don't know if it's that bad. I will say there's probably maybe a little more crime there. It's just really far. Flatbush, same thing with Flatbush. Like, no judgment to anybody who lives here or loves it there. I'm not trying to like throw shade at like the area itself, but it does have more crime and it is a little more dangerous. And also there's just not as much stuff in the area, not as many restaurants and things to do. I wouldn't recommend living in Flatbush. Same thing with East Flatbush. Anything East New York, steer clear away from. When I first moved here, I was like, oh my God, I found these apartments. They're so cheap in East New York. And my friend was like, no, Raquel, don't. No, that's so dangerous. That is another good indicator. If a place is really cheap and you're seeing it and you're like, oh my God, like I'm so lucky I found this cheap place. But more than likely, there's a reason it's cheap. Carroll Gardens is another one of those places that's kind of like Park Slope. I call it Stroller City. It's a little bit closer than Park Slope and it's really beautiful and has a lot of cool stuff. It just has a lot of kids. Sunset Park, Cypress Hills, I'm not really that sure about those. Cobble Hill, I'm not that sure about that. Brooklyn Heights, downtown Brooklyn, it kind of depends on where you are. Dumbo, absolutely gorgeous, 10 out of 10. I want to live there so badly. If you guys are Gossip Girl fans, that is where the Humphrey Loft is. I always like laugh at it because they made him seem so poor, like Brooklyn was just so poor and so far out there. Dumbo is one of the nicest places to live, okay? Dumbo itself stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. Red Hook, the only thing I really know about Red Hook is the IKEA that I used to go to is out there. And when we go out there for IKEA, it's so empty otherwise. So I definitely don't recommend living out there, but check out the IKEA. Prospect, Lefferts Gardens, not sure. Boream Hill, I think it's just kind of far. East New York, like I said, steer clear. South Slope, Gowanus is pretty cool. Gowanus is up and coming. It looks nice now. Coney Island, I would never recommend to live over there. Yeah, it has like the rides and stuff, which are questionable itself. Definitely has a lot of shootings, especially around the 4th of July, so I wouldn't live over there. Plus, it's really far out. A couple of these other places I've never heard of. Canarsie, definitely steer clear, do not live there. Sheepshead Bay, I lived there once when I was like in between apartments and I needed something cheap. Really far away. Brighton Beach is also right there by Sheepshead Bay. Again, I would just do your research to see like the area itself, but the places I told you to steer clear from altogether, definitely steer clear. The places I would definitely recommend: Dumbo, Park Slope, South Slope, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Bushwick. Those are the popular areas, and you will see that the price tag on the apartments are probably a little more expensive just because you are paying for that location. Look at what trains are nearby and what trains you'll have to take to get to work. Don't feel like you have to live in the most expensive apartment. If you can't get an apartment, look into like just renting a room somewhere where someone already lives, and that way you don't have to get on a lease. They more than likely probably won't check your credit. You just have to pay them rent just from the day you move in. Find what works for you. So now I want to talk about commuting. There are a couple different ways you can get around. Obviously the main one is going to be the subway. Taking the train is become so normal for me. It really wasn't that hard for me to understand how to use it because New York operates on a grid system. So it's north, east, south, west. The streets go up and down, the avenues go up and down, and that's it. Try not to be overwhelmed about using the trains here in New York. I know that was something I was really scared of when I first moved here. I'm not even kidding. When I first moved here, I went to Williamsburg that first night and rode the train by myself back. You will need a Metro card. This is a Metro card if you guys have never seen one. Sometimes you can get different ones. This is what they normally look like, but they have ones, like I've had one before that had a sunset on it. I know Supreme had one for a while that you could only buy it at one station, and like people were flocking to the station to buy it. There are different ways to pay for your ride. So you can just do the one where you put money on for just like one ride. I don't recommend this at all unless you are a tourist or you're just visiting or you don't use the train. You normally just walk and you just need to take it like once or twice, which is rare. So if you're living in New York, you're more than likely going to be taking the train a lot. One ride is $2.75. Once you leave the station, you have to pay to get back into the subway. The other options are unlimited. So there's a 30-day unlimited one, then there's a 7-day unlimited one. You can ride the subway within that time period 100 times if you want to and only pay this amount. The 7-day subway pass is $33, or you can do the monthly unlimited option, which I use the most just because I take the subway every day when I commute to work and on the weekends. I didn't put money on this recently because I haven't been taking the subway as much. The monthly card is $127. The $127 option makes the most sense if you take the subway every day. When you swipe it, it'll let you know on the turnstile how much money you have left. Another thing about subway passes, I learned this the hard way. Just because you have unlimited doesn't mean that everybody you know can get in on the subway. If you swipe your unlimited card, you have to wait 15 minutes before you swipe it again. So you can't swipe and then let someone else in with your card. If you like realize that you're on the wrong side of the subway and you have to leave the station to get onto the right side, because some stations you can just transfer underground. Like if you're like, oh, I'm on like the uptown side, I need to be on the downtown side, then you can just walk up the stairs and go back around. But some of the stations are on either sides of the street, especially if the subway station is outside. Usually they're on opposite sides of the street. I've done this before where I've gotten in on the wrong side. If that happens where you make that mistake, you can just ask the person in the booth and then they'll just buzz you in and let you go in for free. I've had a guy be like, nope, sorry. And then I was just standing there like, and I think he just felt bad and was like, okay, just go ahead. Because I was like, I'm not trying to like pull one over on you. I really did just swipe on the wrong side. Another way to get around is car services. Uber and Lyft are very popular here. I think they have another one called Via still, I'm not sure. And then there have been a couple different ones that have been bought out by other companies. Even if you don't live in New York, I think those are pretty popular. We try not to use car services unless we're gonna be out late, unless we're like drinking and just lazy. There's also different options if you wanna take these services. You can do the wait and save option, which I think is on Lyft. You can order a car and you might have to wait 10 to 15 minutes for it to come pick you up, but you save a little bit of money. And you can also do the shared ride option where you ride with someone else if you're going in the same direction. I will say I've done the wait and save option and the shared ride option. I remember doing a shared option because I was going to the hair salon or something and it wasn't that far. I have had to share before when I've done that. I haven't done it in a while, but there's times I've done the shared option and nobody was around that needed to ride, so I got the car to myself for a cheaper price. And also the wait and save. I've never had to wait more than a minute. Like they normally come right away because they're around anyways. Another way to get around, it's not a car, but it's the City Bike. So City Bikes are sponsored by Citibank and they are everywhere. There are so many different docking stations. I can look outside and see one right now. They're just bikes that anybody can rent. If you download the City Bike app, you'll be able to find the closest stations near you. I don't really bike that often, I will say. Personally, I know people that like to bike to work in the morning sometimes. We do have rush hour here, so the subways are gonna be the same way they are if you're in a car around 5 o'clock, and in the morning it's super crowded, super busy. There are delays on the train, which is really annoying. And the last way to commute in New York, which is the most common way besides the subway, is walking. Your feet are gonna be your main mode of transportation. Even if you're taking the subway somewhere, more than likely you're going to have to walk from the subway to where you're going. I don't mind the walking anymore. When I first moved here, the first and second week, I was so sore. There's times like when you go to lunch or brunch or dinner and you want to walk around after because the city's just so beautiful. Just get used to walking, get some nice walking shoes. Don't feel the need to wear high heels wherever you go all the time, but you do get used to it. I'm so used to it. Like I'll go home now and I'm like, you guys want to go on a walk? And they're like, what? Okay, now I want to get into something that I really love about New York. restaurants. So many amazing restaurants in New York. I think it's one of the most amazing places in the world for food, and the quality that they have here, incomparable. The first thing is delivery services. I order in a lot even when it's not a pandemic. I have mentioned these delivery apps on my videos before. Caviar, DoorDash, those are the main ones that I like to use. There's also Postmates, there's Uber Eats, which I really don't like. Seamless, which was the first one. Ordering in is amazing. It really depends on the area that you chose to live in. Living in Bushwick and Williamsburg, I definitely have a lot of options. Just make sure you check the rating, because sometimes the food looks better in the pictures than it is when you get it, and you don't want to order from some like cheap place that's trying to pass off as a nice restaurant. The next thing I want to talk about is reservations. In Brooklyn, I don't think you need reservations as much. It kind of just depends on where you are. Use Open Table to make reservations because you get points back, and you can use those points to get money off your next meal and stuff like that. Some restaurants do not take reservations on Open Table. They'll take it on their website directly, or you have to call, or sometimes Yelp. And then some restaurants just don't take reservations at all. My suggestion is to always call. If you have a reservation in and you got it all set, don't worry about it. But if there's a place that doesn't take reservations at all, or they don't take it for a certain time, like brunch, a lot of restaurants do not take reservations for brunch. And if they do take reservations for brunch, they're usually booked up 2-3 days in advance because people are already thinking about their weekend plans. But I always suggest calling. If there's a place that doesn't take reservations, I call them to see how busy it is around the time that I'm gonna go. Like whether I'm going in the next 30 minutes or if I'm gonna be there like later that day, I'm like, how busy is it normally for this amount of people? And they'll let you know, because they're like, we don't take reservations, but yeah, it's kind of busy around that time. Or no, that's actually a really good time. I would come here like a little bit earlier. There are so many places to go to though, so if you don't get to go to the place that you really wanted to at first, check it out next time. There's so many good places to eat in New York. Which brings me into my next topic, the types of cuisines in Brooklyn and my favorite restaurant. I'm gonna bring up my phone and look at Caviar because that's what I've been using to order food the most lately. There's a lot of good Thai food in Brooklyn. I love Thai food. I have so many restaurants, but these are just gonna be the ones that are just mainly in Brooklyn because Manhattan has amazing restaurants as well that I love. There's this restaurant that I've mentioned on my channel multiple times, Sage Brooklyn. It's on Graham. It is so delicious. The food is amazing. They have such beautiful outdoor seating, a lot of space, and they have heaters right now, so if you want to go eat outdoors at Sage, you can sit outside and it's beautiful. There's good Mediterranean food. The kebab shack is really good. Oh my god, Brooklyn bagels, they are so good. Bagels in Brooklyn are like no other. I just found this new place called Black Seed Bagels. So delicious. Like the bagels are absolutely delicious, and they have this bacon, egg, and cheese on a everything bagel that's like, guys. Sweet Chick is really good for fried chicken. They have this on Bedford Avenue, I think. They have 2 locations. A lot of good sushi in Brooklyn. You just have to like kind of look it up to see what rolls you're looking for. Oh my god, tacos, amazing tacos. There's this place called Mesa Coyoacán, I think. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but oh my god, it is so good. The steak tacos are like the best steak tacos I've ever had in my life. Roberta's Pizza, such great pizza, very classic. A lot of good pizza in Brooklyn. Joe's Pizza is really good. Not as many Chinese restaurants that I like because I think the gross Chinese restaurants that are like cheap and fast are just really bad for you. But we found one that we really love called Michael and Ping's. I think it's in Park Slope, but they delivered to us. It is so delicious, like amazing ingredients, top quality. If you're vegan, a lot of different options for you and good options. There's a place called Champs that's not too far from us that is like a well-known vegan restaurant, and they have a lot of vegan junk food, kind of like mozzarella sticks, chicken fingers and stuff, but it's all vegan. Casa Ora, I've talked about that place before. Amazing Venezuelan food. Sea Wolf is really good. That's a seafood place. We haven't been in a while, but that's pretty good. A lot of great bakeries too, which I've mentioned multiple times on my channel. Patisserie Tomoko is the one that comes to mind first because I love that place. It is so good. It's like a mix of Japanese and French style desserts. So good. Winsun Bakery. There are tons of different options for food that I'm just like kind of grazing it. That's not all of it, but just know there's so many different places to eat here. I feel like that should be its own video. I've done a video where we dine out in Brooklyn, we dine out in Manhattan. I think New York has the best restaurants. Restaurateurs come to New York to showcase their best possible dishes. I know there's good food everywhere. Like New York is just one of those hubs. I'm just lucky to live in like one of the best places, and hopefully you will be too. Okay, now I want to talk about style. This isn't to tell you like what you need to wear, what you have to have. Just different cities have different styles. After living there for a while, you start to pick up on those styles. There's a couple things that I didn't want to get because I was just so against getting certain things because everybody else had it. Not liking things because people might make fun of you for it. That's stupid too. Like what you want, wear what you want. It's not that big of a deal. That's what trends are. That's what fads are. One of the main things I think you should have is a pair of Air Forces. I have a pair of Air Forces. That was one of those things I didn't want to get for a while because everyone had it. They literally go with everything. Wearing it with like a really cute bodycon dress, so cute. Another common thing is a peacoat, like those long peacoats that go down to like your calves or like past your knees. I have a couple of them. You can get it in a couple different colors that that most people have, but black is definitely popular. You definitely want to have a backpack or a canvas bag. I used to have a black leather backpack. It was really cute, but I'm not really into the backpacks anymore. I really like the canvas bags. A really popular one is the New Yorker one. You have to have a subscription and sign up for the New Yorker to get the free tote bag, so I may or may not have done that. I'm not even gonna get the real New Yorker one. I'm getting like some special edition one, which is fine. But you can get canvas bags from anywhere. I think they have them at Urban Outfitters. The main reason you want to have a canvas bag or a backpack is because when you live in New York, you are walking around everywhere and you're commuting via train and car. You're not gonna necessarily have a car to go back to. When I had a car, I would like put things in my trunk or in my back seat and be like, oh, I'll just go get it from the car in the parking lot. But now when I go out to restaurants, when I go shopping, when I go out to hang out, I'm not coming back to a car. I'm getting on the next train to come back home. Everyone was wearing those Herschel backpacks for a while. That was like the hipster backpack for a while. Now it's that new one. I'm definitely gonna butcher the name. I think it's Fiel Robin Konkin. I'll put a picture of it right here. It's not really my style. It would have been my style when I first moved here, I will say that. When I was younger, I would have loved to have something like that because they are really cute. Another thing would be high-waisted mom jeans. That's such a Brooklyn thing, I feel like, and they're really comfortable, and if you have a booty, they make you look amazing. And also high-waisted leggings, because I still love wearing leggings. High-waisted leggings with a bra top or a crop shirt with a jacket over it. Fire. More baggy clothes in Brooklyn, in a mixture of baggy and tight. So if you have baggy bottoms, you have a tighter top, or if you have a baggy top, you have tighter bottoms. Another thing is Doc Martens. That is very, very Brooklyn. I think that's it as for staple items. I love designer things though. Like, I really love designer clothing and designer bags because the quality is amazing. The artistry itself, I'm just like super into it. I think I want to get a backpack at some point again, but I want it to be a designer bag. I just don't know which one. Kind of wear whatever you want. Everyone's very accepting here. The main takeaway about style is that you should dress in whatever you want. There's no like, I'm girly, I'm punky, like, it's not like that. You can have a mix of everything and still like that be your style. It doesn't have to be so black and white. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is things to do in Brooklyn. I kind of saved this one for last because there's really not much you can do right now given the pandemic, but when things open back up, you definitely want to check these things out. So like I said before, Brooklyn is all hipstery, very artsy fartsy, a lot of cool things to see. I'm going to restaurants, walking around, seeing nature, seeing art. Definitely use those commuting tips I told you guys about and take the subway, a car, or a bike into the city because it's really not that far. I feel like I'm gonna draw a couple blanks because we haven't been doing things because of this quarantine. One of the things I love to do ever since I moved here, when I lived in Manhattan, I did this as well, is chase street art. Street art in Brooklyn is so cool. You don't even have to look for it. It is everywhere, like everywhere, and people are so talented. There's tons of shopping. If you go to certain areas, there's definitely more shopping. One of the most popular areas is Bedford Avenue. It's off the L train. Lots of cute boutiques, a couple name brand things. Brooklyn Botanic Gardens is one of the other places we love. New York has a lot of hidden gems like this. Go take a city bike and ride it over Williamsburg Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge. That's really fun. There's a lot of different parks. You have McCarran Park, which is in Greenpoint. It's a pretty well-known park. I've done a photo shoot there. A lot of good areas to get photos. Domino Park is fairly new. Going to Dumbo. We go out there all the time just to sit there. Like, sometimes we'll go to Foragers Market, which is right there on that same street, and we'll get a sandwich because their sandwiches are dope. And we'll just sit there and eat sandwiches on like one of the rocks, or we'll sit in the grass or something. It's just like really epic that you're like sitting in a field right next to the Humphrey Loft and you have this bridge over you. It's just like the most picturesque moment. When everything's like open and popping, we got all the restaurants, all the bars open, a lot of live music. You could be like sitting at home on a Saturday night at like 7 and be like, you want to go out and do something? Even if you're not going out to a bar or a party or something, you can just walk around and do stuff. Like, there's so many different things you can do, and you never know who you're gonna meet. There are a lot of celebrities that live in Brooklyn. I've met a couple different celebrities in Brooklyn and Manhattan. One that I remember like off the top of my head is Penn Badgley. He is Dan Humphrey in Gossip Girl. I saw him at Whole Foods on Bedford Avenue. We were there. It was just really cool. That's everything I could think of for this. I really hope I touched on everything. I know I probably forgot some stuff, so just let me know, you guys. Please drop a comment below. Brooklyn is amazing to live in. I've lived in Brooklyn for 4 years now. I am the Belle of Bushwick after all. I've lived in Manhattan before. I've lived in Queens before. So if you guys want to see me do a guide to living in Manhattan, please let me know. That'd be so much fun. It is similar to Brooklyn, but different. I will say that Brooklyn is more cozier and more relaxed and more laid back than Manhattan is. This was a very casual guide to living in Brooklyn. I've lived in New York since 2014. That's so crazy. Oh my God. If you guys have any more questions specifically as well, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I want to tell you guys to leave an emoji, but I'm not sure which one yet. If you made it up this far, leave the little nerdy emoji with the glasses. I feel like that's kind of hipster, right? This was a lot of fun. And don't forget to subscribe. I will see you guys next time.